Hey, Demi.
Daniel is ready to go. Actually, I shouldn't even say that. Who do we have on stage with us right now?
Hey, Demi.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, sorry, just to interrupt. When the show started, we heard this fabulous, amazing laughter. We did not hear anything
Oh,
before that. So just FYI, you might have to repeat a couple of things,
oh my goodness.
but
Which
that
is
was that
fine.
was that was an amazing start, though. Love
Okay,
it.
great. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Hacktoberfest demo day. I will let each of us introduce ourselves. I am Demi Ajayi. I'm not sure who else we have on stage with us today. Daniel, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Daniel Crook. I'm the CTO for Call for Code. Really excited to highlight some of these contributions today.
Awesome. Upkar, yourself.
Hey, everyone. Upkar Litter. I'm a technical lead for Call for Code for Racial Justice projects. Happy to be here.
Yeah, great. And sorry, you guys might have heard me before. Sorry for the delays. We were trying to get our live stream cross-streamed from StreamYard, so that's what caused our delays. We were ready on time, but we just had to fix a few things there. But we are excited to get into our demo day. It's been a long month of contributions to Hacktoberfest. The first time that Call for Code for Racial Justice is participating, and Call for Code also participated last year. And we had a lot of great and awesome contributions, a lot of great speakers who you'll see today. And we're really excited to have them as part of our community and really grateful to them for being here today. So we'll get started now. We have lots of great contributions to show you. So let's take a look at the agenda for the day. All right, so we're going to do some quick intros to Call for Code, talk about our stats, kind of brag on ourselves a little bit, get into the demos, which is why we're all here, and then say thank you to all of you, our awesome participants. And we have a poll out right now in our Crowdcast for you to look at, which asks whether or not you participated in a Hacktoberfest. So if you did, both as speakers, you guys can also take a look at that link too, to click on that, just so we know who participated, who's on the call right now, so we can thank you as well. So we'll get started now with Call for Code intros.
All right. Well, if you're not familiar with Call for Code already, and hopefully you are, but I'm really excited if this is your first experience or exposure to it. So it's a global initiative that IBM started together with the Linux Foundation, David Clark Cause, and the United Nations. And the goal has been each year to lay out a challenge for developers to take on and create sustainable open source projects for them. So there's a competition aspect, but more importantly, whatever comes out of the competition, we want to live on as open source projects that anybody can use and contribute back to. So that's really the focus of what we wanted to do with Hacktoberfest in the context of Call for Code, is invite folks to take part in the 14 Linux Foundation Call for Code open source projects and make their first contribution to open source, which is becoming so much more important to digital literacy this century. So there is the global challenge. There are university and spot challenges. There are several activities going on right now. You can join us in Slack. I'm actually going to send a broadcast message later today to highlight some of the great activities that are going on, including the awards event, and hope you can join us for that. So with that, let me hand it back over to Demi to talk about Hacktoberfest, Call for Code for Racial Justice.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Daniel. It's always a pleasure to have you here with us. Do you want to speak a little bit to who we saw when you came on stage? You just kind of surprised us there.
This one here? Yeah, we got a little bit of Mandalorian going on. I've got a baby Yoda or a Grogu with me too, but it didn't stay on my shoulder.
Just, fun fact, Daniel's favorite holiday is Halloween. He counts down, from October 31st to the next October 31st. We'll be counting down in Slack. So not surprising, but yet I was surprised to see that today. Thank you so much for that, Daniel. So yeah, just a little bit more about Call for Code for Racial Justice. So it's a part of Call for Code, which came about last year. And just a bit more seriously, it was developed by Black IBMers in response to the killings of several unarmed Black citizens in the U.S., such as George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor. And we built 3 pillars which we wanted to use to address major issues related to systemic racism. So police and judicial reform and accountability, diverse representation, and policy and legislation reform. And through these pillars, we've developed 7 solutions which address these areas, which are all open source and which you can contribute to. And some of the people who are speaking today have contributed to these different solutions. So we're very grateful and very happy to have them here with us today. And a little bit more about Hacktoberfest. So Hacktoberfest, we're coming to the end of this, and I've been talking about Hacktoberfest all month. I'm sure everyone who's works with me or sees me is tired of hearing me talk about that or hear those words out of my mouth. But it's been really great. It's a month-long contribution festival where it encourages people to contribute to open source projects such as ours with our Call for Code projects and the Call for Code for Racial Justice projects. And you made some great progress. This was our first year doing this for Call for Code for Racial Justice. We have a few stats that we want to share, and they're kind of live and up to date. So maybe up real time. So there might be a little bit of a lag in what we have as far as the stats right now, but they're probably pretty close. So in terms of our stats, we have 80 merged PRs. And thank you to Oopcar and to all of our maintainers for actually merging these PRs to Ed Snodgrass online. Other people are David Nixon, Gerald Mitchell for helping us out with merging these PRs. It's been really awesome to, ensure that we're actually responding to people. And if your PR has not been merged, please have patience with us. After this, we're going to try to close out the ones that we can, provide you some reviews and issue responses to the ones that we aren't able to merge immediately. And we have about 37 first-time contributors, probably a little bit more than that. And in terms of the breakdown, we got a good breakdown in terms of what people are working on. So if you came to our initial kickoff session, we talked about the different ways you can contribute. So we had a lot of things related to documentation, creating templates, which you'll hear about shortly. We have some GitHub actions related to creating stale bots, greeting bots, and a few things related to testing as well. And then some CI/CD work also, and then we have some great UI work, which we'll show you closer to the end of this presentation. With that, we will be handing it off to our demo speakers. So please get ready and welcome them. They've done a lot of great work. And also being a part of this has been really awesome to have them contribute. They're from all around the world with different experiences, and they're going to talk to you a little bit about what they did right now. So let's get started.
Perfect. So first we have John and Divyansh. Let me get you guys on the screen. Give me 1 second. Oops. All right, here we go. Here's John. Hey, John.
Hi, Oka.
And here we go. Here's Divyansh. So just quickly, the format for today, we kept it really simple. We are asking all of our guest speakers, contributors to tell us a little bit about yourselves, and then tell us what you worked on. If there's anything specific that you learned out of Hacktoberfest, out of this experience, and also curious to know if this is your first time with open source. So with that being said, who wants to go first here?
Okay, so I'll go first. Hello, everyone. My name is John Theower. I'm a junior full stack developer from Nigeria, and this is my first year in technology, and I learned about IBM's Call for Code from a friend on Twitter, and I just decided to join in because I saw it as a great opportunity to grow my skills and contribute to something meaningful. And then I participated in Hacktoberfest. I created GitHub action bots to make the workflow easier. And it was a very fun thing to do because the team was so supportive, and I was able to submit 4 pull requests during the Hacktoberfest period. And yeah, so that's basically it. So I think Divyansh is going to come up and explain how we did that, because we did similar things. Yeah.
Wonderful. Divyansh, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. My name is Divyansh. I'm from India, New Delhi, and currently I'm pursuing high school diploma. So as of my contributions for Call for Code Racial Justice project, I did contribute in, like John explained, I did contribute in bots and templates to make the workflow more easier. It was not that hard contributing in these tools because because a lot of examples and the maintainers had mentioned a lot about how we can do it. So yeah, it was my first time contributing in open source. So yeah, thank you.
Very good. So Divyansh, which you said you did the bot or the pull request?
Yeah.
Both of them?
I did both.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, good. So just if folks are on the audience are new to the templates and issue templates and PR templates and the bots, this is something provided on GitHub, and it's sort of these features make the process of reporting issues and bugs a little bit more streamlined. And then the bots automate some of the tasks that otherwise would have to be manually done by the maintainers and the community, right? So I don't know if other people have been through this where, you know, you go, I worked in support when I started with IBM like 120 years ago. And back then, I remember working on issues, and I would spend almost a week going back and forth with the customer, asking questions like, what browser are you using? What exact steps did you do to produce, or, you know, when you got into this issue and things like that. And I think the work that Divyansh and John, you guys have done helps with that part a lot, right? So when somebody new comes in, they create an issue, we give them a template. Here's what we need to know right up front and save everybody a lot of time. So I want to thank you both for your contributions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It's awesome.
All right, next we have Sadie. Sadie, let me bring you up on screen. Sorry, I'm multitasking.
Uh-oh, he took himself off screen. Upkar, please come back. Oh my goodness.
I left the important people on screen. That's what matters. All right, Sadie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, yes, I'm Sadie J.
Hello.
I'm a front-end developer, based in the U.S.
Wonderful. And, oh, Demi, were you going to say something?
No, I just wanted to, shout out Sadie. She's so awesome. It's really great to have you as part of our community and here today. So looking forward to your demo. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks. Yes. I contributed for pull requests during Hacktoberfest, but the one we're highlighting today is with the incident accuracy reporting system, and it's number 73, and it updates the gitignore file. So my background with open source, it's not my first time, but it was definitely my first time being consistent and purposeful with it. I found y'all during the kickoff and kept the projects in mind. And yeah, I'm surprised about the demo. It's great.
Yeah. Well, I want to personally thank you for your patience with us, with so many different projects and the PRs. I think we took a little bit of time to get back to you on some of these PRs. So thank you for sticking around and hanging in there.
No worries.
So Sadie, tell us a little bit more about this this problem you solved, or what the problem was first of all with the .gitignore file, and the steps you took to solve it.
Yeah, so I was looking through the project's main directory for Hacktoberfest contributions, and I noticed a stray dsstore file. That then led me to check the gitignore file. And for those unaware, the gitignore file, as defined by FreeCodeCamp, is a text file that tells Git which files or folders to ignore. So I was explaining this to my mom, and I used an analogy. If you think of gitignore as a filter, and our project is coffee, a dsstore file would be the grounds. So essentially, I found grounds in the coffee.
I think that's a great analogy, and I might steal that if that's I'll of course credit you with it, but I think it's great to explain how this works to somebody new to gitignore and GitHub. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. To update the gitignore, I forked the project, edited my version, and added dsstore to the actual file itself. And we also removed the cached dsstore file from the project. So the initial grounds were removed from the project. And yeah, I solved the problem this way because I thought, well, I knew it was something the project could benefit from directly. And it also opened up conversations with the maintainers on whether or not they had more files or folders to remove.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for your contribution, Sadie.
Thank you so much, Sadie.
All right, so we'll see. Let's see who's next. Denny, let me bring Denny on. All right. Hi, Denny.
Hi everyone. I'm Danny and I live in Italy. I'm a full stack developer and I mainly use Python, JavaScript, and Go on my day-to-day job. But I love contributing to open source projects, not only for the Hacktoberfest, and I have t-shirts from last year, but
Nice.
for the whole year.
I like that. It's not Hacktoberfest, it's all year round contributions.
So Denny's a pro. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So Denny, tell us a little bit about the problem you solved. To begin with, I think it was a surprise to us when you picked the repo that you did pick, because that was our handbook repo, and we weren't really. It wasn't one of the call for code for racial justice projects, and you came in and you were like, "Hey, there's a better way to do this. Here's how I would improve the project." So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I was looking for repositories I could contribute to for the Hacktoberfest, and I noticed this repository with a README that I thought could be improved. The README was saying that for using the project, a contributor should install globally a few dependencies. In my experience, it's never a good thing to install global dependencies. And so I created my first pull request on the repo, adding a package.json file with the required dev dependency inside. And I added a start script using Doxify, in this case, for solving the issue. Then this started a long conversation between me and the maintainers of the project, and we came out with a solution improving README file and package.json for everyone, people who like to install global dependencies and people who like to use local dependencies. Then I noticed and opened the issue asking to add a prettier in the project and as a GitHub workflow. So I decided, well, I can improve my knowledge on GitHub workflow and use for the first time in my life prettier for markdown files. And yeah, then I created this new pull request solving the issue.
I remember, so the one thing I saw here, which I commented on before as well, the amount of details you put in the issues are amazing. And for every step you take, you point, not only do you say, hey, in my experience, or this is what I've done in the past, you pointed back to the official documentation to say, hey, this is how what the best practice is. And Jenny, like this, it's amazing. I also saw this with the other contributors as well. And I think at least I did, and I'm sure others did too. It's so interesting looking through an issue and reading the conversation and sort of trying to understand why the steps were taken that you took. So thank you for putting in all the details that you did.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I like to clarify my issue and my pull request in order to have a clear vision of my task and creating small commits, solving step-by-step issue. So it's clear for maintainers to see what I thought while I was working on.
That's something I strive to do, and you gave a good example of how to do it. So I'm going to follow your lead here. Thank you so much, Denny.
Great, thank you.
All right, who do we have next? Mark, I'm going to bring you up on the screen. 1 second. All right, Mark. Hello and welcome.
Hello, good morning, everybody. I'm Mark Velasco. I'm the SDSM for IBM. I am usually SRE, so I'm like on call for in case things go down, catch fire, whatever. So I have a little different skill set, not usually doing core development and doing a lot of automation scripting all day. So this was a change of pace for me. Probably like everybody else, I was a little intimidated because like I always want to get involved in open source, but I'm never sure really where to start. I'm always kind of off solving on my old projects, and so I thought, you know what better time to kind of be familiar with our projects and call for code than to just dive right in and look for some issues. And so I found this issue, enable linting as a pre-commit hook. A lot of this stuff is actually in my repositories when I actually go and use them in work, and so I've never actually had the chance to set them up from scratch, and so this was a good learning opportunity for me, which is why I liked it. I love learning new things and learning how to do these, you know, how they set these up from scratch, because I may want to do them again from another repo someday. And so this was a good opportunity for me. It gave me a little bit of a chance to go and research, you know, how to enable linting, the command that was listed there. What's the difference between the current command and the command we wanted to implement? And then I made the change. I went and tested it in my own system, which is another good thing, because I always want to pull down the projects and see how I can run them and test them on my own system. And I have a background in testing, so I'm a firm believer in pull it down and test it, and then make sure your changes do what they need to do. What was it failing before? How was it failing before? And verify that there's a change. And so so this is a really good background for me. And kind of got my feet wet so I could actually do more of this in the future, and kind of got used to the project, so I could also get used to the project and figure out where all the pieces are in the project, what is the formatter looking for, types of errors and warnings and things like that, so that I could do more of this in the future. So yeah, it's a first step, a baby step.
No, wonderful. That's wonderful. Now I'm curious, when you say you pulled on the project and tested it, I'm wondering if you used their GitHub has this tool called ACT. I don't know how to pronounce it. I just say ACT. But did you use any of that to test the actions, or did you test the command itself, just for folks who are new to this?
Both. So I tested the command itself. I wanted to make sure the command I was putting in was going to work, and then tested the actions. Yeah. So. In the actions, I'm not, like I said, I'm not too familiar with. I know that I use them for my code, and I know that they're there. But this is my first experience actually saying, oh, okay, that command is actually being implemented in the action, and using that.
Very cool. Nice. Thank you for sharing your experience with us, Mark.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Fellow IBMer, so very happy to have you on here with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to bring Daniel up on the screen. Hi, Daniel.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
All right, so tell us a little bit about yourself, Daniel.
Okay, so I'm a DevOps engineer. I'm a PhD student in industrial informatics. Yeah, I'm from Spain. I'm currently working in Germany. And yeah, I found actually I was looking for some issues to contribute during the Hacktoberfest and so on. And then I checked that there was an issue open that was relating to update the base image to the one of Red Hat. And then I decided, okay, let's update the base image, but not to the Red Hat one, but let's do it a little bit differently. And that's what I did actually.
So what was tell us a little bit more about the thinking behind not using the Red Hat and using the other image. I know you put in some comments, but if you could share with us.
Sure. So, basically, it's true that the Red Hat images, and normally they lack as many vulnerabilities that official ones, but the whole point is that Red Hat use fully fledged operative systems in their base images. That it's something that we don't want. I mean, there is no point that for a small node application, we just get the same dependencies and the same packages that we will have for a development environment. Due to that, I decided to divide the image into stages. First of all, a build stage that will have the fully fledged operative system with all its dependencies, including GCC, build essentials, and so on, just in case we need to compile something that is not already existing. And then a final image that it's the minimum image that we will require to actually run the application. And yeah, also I always like to scan my final images and also resolved the small vulnerabilities that could come out of this scam. And well, yeah,
Very
this
cool.
is
And
the solution.
no, this is very nice. I love the way you set it up, and little things like this, like right here. If the env file is, am I reading it correctly? If the env file is not found, then copy the env docker into env. So little one-liners like that I got to learn from your code. So thank you for that. As I was mentioning to Denny with yourself as well, I can see like you have experience of doing this before, and everything you write, there's a reason for doing that, and you explain it really well. So thank you. Another example is this one here, pointing to a specific SHA instead of just pointing to the Node 14 image. Can you tell us why you did that?
Yeah, well, actually, because the registries at the end are managed by the maintainers of them. Of course, we expect from Node to have a proper versioning system and so on. But the whole point is that even if we refer a tag, it could be that the maintainers decide to create a new image and push it to the same tag. And I'm expecting a deterministic image, so I wouldn't like that suddenly from one day to another that changes. So pointing explicitly to the SHA is the best way of ensure that the image that you are using, it's going to be the same all the time.
Very cool. And then there was the second pull request that was new to me, and this was very interesting. So tell us a little bit more about the problem you were trying to solve when you put in this Docker build on pull request.
Yeah, well, basically, it were more or less like a combination of two problems. First of all, I saw that, of course, the images weren't built in the same environment that I would expect. That is the one that I have, or the one that I'm used to. So it was require a way of checking, okay, each time I modify the Docker file, that the image is going to be built afterwards. But also I saw that there were certain things like, for example, environment variables that were not declared and so on, that weren't existing in the code, that were preventing this development environment to run from scratch. This, of course, will lead into a bad development feeling at the time of, okay, I have to set up everything. So basically what I set up was a GitHub action. What it does is to build the actual image. Of course, if it builds, that means it's working. And also, the next thing that it does is to raise it and perform a health check against a monitoring endpoint. So it's not only, okay, the image builds, is the image builds, and also it's runnable and it's working. And yeah, well, basically the best case to do this, because of course in the runner we don't want to expose ports, so it was executing the proper image that we built in previous steps and to run curl within that.
Yeah, so I think health status checks is one of those things that either like people forget, or it's something that maybe doesn't seem that important. It's a one endpoint, small endpoint, but so important. And I, after looking at what you've done here, I started, I created more issues in other repos to do something similar. So thank you for sharing this tidbit with us.
You're welcome.
So your experience with Hacktoberfest, I'm guessing, like Denny, you also, do you contribute outside of Hacktoberfest as well, or as part of your schoolwork or your job?
Yeah, normally, yes. In a job, we have some open source projects, and I used to contribute with them. Not with my public GitHub account, but with the work one, of course. And yeah, I mean, I used to work a little bit in the public repos, open source projects, and so on. Yes.
Yeah, very cool. So thank you so much for your contribution. Daniel is going to, I'm hoping, moving forward, help with one of the open source projects called Pira. And so, Daniel, thank you for contributing not just in Hacktoberfest, but also joining our community meetings and helping out.
You're welcome.
All right. Let's see. Who's next? Demi, do we do a transition? I see a note from you saying we might do a transition to some other activity. Is that still the case, or do we keep going?
Yeah, this might be a good place to do that. So I think there was a note. I put something in the Slack, or sorry, not the Slack, too many apps, in the Crowdcast for a quick quiz. I'm not sure whether or not, I think someone said they were having issues opening it. So let me see if it's working on my end. Okay. So we have 2 questions. Let me just open Menti on my end so that we can get started. There are 2 questions there that you can take a look at. Just 2 quizzes, just, you know, a little fun that we can have here. The first question, which should be on your screen right now, I'm presenting it, is asking. Wait, I mean, I guess I can also present it here. So
yeah, it's probably better to do it here.
How many programming languages are there out there in the world? Let me see.
Unlimited.
Come on, man.
I don't know. So the question is, how many programming languages are in the world in total? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. As many JavaScript frameworks there are in the world.
Okay. Well, we have specific choices, Ukar. Let your biasing.
Sorry.
So there are. Okay. So right now we have a few people who have been able to respond. So yeah. So we'll just continue to get responses to that. We have a second question as well, which we'll do a little bit later on during our presentation. So we'll just continue there. Just think about that. Maybe put your comments in the chat. If you have very specific opinions like Upkar does, also, you can put that in the chat as well. All right, so we can continue here.
Wonderful. So here's another kind. We couldn't get our contributor to the event today, but we wanted to showcase the PR they've put in. And this is one of our apps called 5/5 Voter. We recently had additional languages put in and translated the app into I think a dozen languages or so. And so we asked the community if they could help out with some translation verification testing. And this person came in and they noticed something in Hindi, which is a language I speak as well. So that's why I picked this PR. There were other ones as well. And they came in and they said, hey, credential, there's a different way to say credential, and they put in their comment here. They didn't even do a PR. I'm hoping they do a PR moving forward, but just, you know, this counts as much, if not more, than some of the technical PRs that we saw, which put in code, right? This is what the end user sees at the end of the day. So I just wanted to point this out. As Demi can attest, there's multiple ways to contribute. This was one of the ones I saw. All right, and Demi, we could not get Tumit either. Is that right?
Yeah. So Akila is going to demo his or their solution since she reviewed the PR. So Akila,
let me bring Akila on the stage. Hey, Akila.
Hey.
Hello. How are you?
Hey. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So Akila, tell us, before we get into this, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you found out about the projects that you're contributing to. I am a big fan of the work you put in and the effort you put in. So please tell us a little bit.
My name is Akila Littlejohn. I live in Atlanta. I'm a front-end developer. Currently, I really enjoy learning how to build things with Angular and TypeScript. I've done work for Code for America, particularly Code for Atlanta, that brigade, and I really fell in love with something called civil hacking. It's similar to, it's pretty much open source projects, and I wanted to find something else to work on. I think for front-end development, it's really, at least for me, it's really hard to find open source projects, and especially with Angular. I do know how to work with other frameworks, but I really love learning how to work with Angular. And so I just put in open source, silver hacking Angular, and magically this popped up. And so, yeah, that's how I found you guys. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad Google did its job and connected you to us. That's awesome. And then, so Tumit is not here with us today, but can you tell a little bit about the problem that was solved here and then the solution?
Yes. So I'm going to read from something to help me articulate. So sorry if I'm looking down. Um, Currently, we're still in the beginning stages of that. So there isn't any real testing on the functionality. The errors are mostly related to configurations and initiating our app components and providers like the HTTP service module, routing module, or the authentication service that we created in the app. It's similar to what you would do in an ng module file. The only difference is that the CLI doesn't import those dependencies for you. You have to do that manually because they want to separate uh, the way that you test from the whole app. It's called unit testing. So you do it, within units. So basically, the changes he made, if you would look, he declares the apps and providers inside of the classes and components. Is pretty repetitive. He doesn't do much. And then in the schemas properties, he added no error schema. Usually you wouldn't do that, but because there isn't any really testing written regarding the way that the apps behave, I just let it go. But usually you would want to use custom elements schema versus no error schema. But for right now, maybe that's a challenge I can give myself, is to learn how to write unit testings based on how we would want the app to behave. But it isn't connected to any backend, or we don't have any real functionality, so that's fine. But the one thing that he did do that I'm really happy with is that he created a new module, test module for all the components that comes with Carbon Design. The Carbon Design system written for Angular. He imported all of those components. So if we were to write the unit testing, it makes it so much easier that you don't have to import those inside our test spec. So I don't know if he's ever listening, but good job.
Yeah, no, that was very helpful. I'm not sure if Tumit is out there listening, but Tumit, thank you so much for your contribution. And Akila, thank you for taking the lead as our Angular lead on the project. And
I know I came here to learn things, and somehow I became in charge of stuff. But it was a confidence booster.
I will take I'll take the fall for that. I think I I sort of volunteered you, and thank you for not getting mad at me.
Oh no, actually, it was a confidence booster to what I've been learning and the skills that I have. So I didn't mind.
That's awesome.
All right, so tell us a little bit about this one, Akila. So here's the change that you made.
Yeah, so I just making the UI look more like the high fidelity prototype that they have in the Envision prototype app. As you can see here, I have the title font changes to IBM, I think Plex signs. I changed the font size and the font weight to the welcome to and IBM Open Citizen, so it looks like that title inside the app. The button made them even. I'm not sure if those had bootstraps. I think it has some type of custom. Because the Carbon Design, at least for Angular, is the documentation is really hard to read, and this project really helped me to read documentation very well. So, for at least for the open and login page, fixed the buttons, added font styles, changed the font weight, and tried to make it look as close as possible to the prototype. And then I have the modal, at least on this particular commit. I did make some changes on a new PR, but there were Bootstrap styles, which is nothing wrong with using Bootstrap, but Bootstrap and Carbon Designs are both UI component libraries. They both have their own grid system. There were conflicting styles, so there was a lot of important properties and inline styles inside of the template because those styles were conflicting with each other. So I changed the layout, And so make this really quickly because I did a lot. It was a validation function inside the component app that you could tell maybe they weren't familiar with Angular. Angular has a wonderful validation system. So I wanted to limit some of the code that was inside of the components. Usually you want to leave that either for the services, for using a service, or you don't want to use I just wanted to, usually, we work to get things done, but because I knew this was an open source project and you don't always get to take, to use best practices and making sure that it's maintainable, I just tried to clean up that code so that beginners can look at the code and not get intimidated by it. And so I made use of the Carbon Design System's own alert system. It had like a bootstrap styles and things like that. But I opted against that in another PR. So,
and that is so important to be able to explain things in a way that somebody new to the project can come and take it up, right? Like, so not everybody may have the experience that you have. So, Akila, I want to thank you again. Thank you for all the hard work you put in. And I look forward to continuing our discussion around Angular versions and Angular CLI versions. That's always interesting.
I'm learning too. So,
all right, thank you so much, Akila. And while I was listening to Akila and looking at all the screenshots, I was thinking about accessibility and UI. And so we have our next speaker, Danielle. Welcome.
Hi.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience with Hacktoberfest.
Yeah, my name's Danielle Mayab. I'm a senior full stack developer with the Nevada Legislature, and found your repository on Twitter. And I've been wanting to do a little more open source contribution for a long time, but had imposter syndrome about it, but finally decided, this was the year to dive in. And one thing I really love doing, both at work, but also outside of work, is advocating for accessibility. And so that's kind of where both of the PRs I submitted for this project come from. And, this first one, accessibility, it's really important to make sure that, a wide range of people can, access an app and have a similar experience to folks who are sighted or who don't need assistive devices. And so sometimes real small changes to a UI or even to a backend sometimes can lead to a much better experience for folks. And so those are always important changes to make. And I feel pretty passionate about that. And, on this one, this was on a form, a tooltip on a form. And forms are one of those things that can be really hard in accessibility. That's where sometimes accessibility will fall down, because there's just lots of things you need to keep in mind for forms, make sure things are labeled properly. And in this case, we wanted to be sure that, the tooltip was accessible, so that if somebody didn't choose a location, they would get a proper sort of warning that, hey, you need to choose that before you submit the form. And in looking through the project, it was originally just using Django's sort of out of the box forms, which is great. But then I noticed the project was also using Bootstrap for layout. And Bootstrap, like Akila was saying, it's a UI framework, and it also has kind of its own sort of opinions on validation and has some good tools just built into it. So since the project was already leveraging that, it seemed to make good sense to change the form to be like a Bootstrap form rather than the out-of-the-box Django form. It just puts that layer of Bootstrap on top that helps with the validation. And in this case, in addition to changing the form, I also added the tag for the Bootstrap form errors so that there would be a complete list of errors on the form at the bottom. And that gives a user, there's like multiple opportunities to let a user know, right at the field level, but then also in the bottom in case there are other errors with the form.
Yeah, and I remember going back and forth with you on this because it wouldn't work on I was using a Fedora box, but I was using Chrome and Firefox, and I couldn't get it to work. And you were saying it works. And then I think you put in this no validate tag that got it working for me. Can you tell us a little bit about that tag? What does that do?
Yeah, so when you put that in, then the native browser HTML5 validation won't run first, and it kind of gets that out of the way so that Bootstrap can properly handle the validation. And that's kind of what we wanted on here, was so that Bootstrap can put that warning, like outline the field and properly return the form errors without like the native browser validation. Because when you put like a required on a field, if you don't have the no validate, the browser will be like, hey, this field is required. And that's where that pop-up was coming from. It was that native browser validation, which is helpful, but it's also not the most accessible validation in the world.
And I guess it also, the implementation may differ from browser to browser as well.
Yes. Yeah, sometimes each browser like shows that, that validation a little bit differently. Like browsers are better now these days about some accessibility stuff and about validation. Like there's native browser like field highlighting and like on hover or on focus, but usually what's there natively in the browser is never enough to meet good accessibility standards to make sure that folks can have that good experience with it.
Perfect, thank you. And I hope the project Akila is working on that. I hope you have time, and I hope you join us there as well to help us out with accessibility.
I would love to. I mean, like I said, accessibility is fun because sometimes you can make small changes in the UI, but it makes a big difference to somebody else.
Right.
And that always makes you feel good at the end of the day. And it's something that I think more people are getting aware of and getting taught and, learning code from the ground up with accessibility included. But I think, it often gets overlooked, and it's easier to do accessibility like from the start of a project rather than to try and go retrofit. We've had to do that a couple of times, and it's much harder when you've already got a lot of infrastructure and stuff in there. So it's nice to kind of get in on the ground level here and help out.
Nice. And I see the next one here is then the next step after you have some accessibility testing in place is to automate that process. So any new code coming in, can we automatically test it? Is that the PR here?
Yeah, this PR was to create the GitHub action for accessibility unit testing. And there's lots of great libraries out there to do accessibility unit testing. And even though the unit testing for accessibility, right, it doesn't cover everything. It probably catches maybe less than half the errors, but it'll catch kind of these big high-level errors, like an image, right? Image element doesn't have an alt attribute, and things that you certainly want to catch that early, because that should be an easy thing for a developer to just catch and fix, right out of the gate. So creating an action like this, this was like on a pull request, it'll run a test and check for accessibility issues. And so created the action, but then also created a file where accessibility tests could be placed, just stubbed out the file where you could start adding unit tests for accessibility elements. And I chose JustAx for that. Just was already being used in this project, and it's used in other Vue, in Vue quite commonly. And JustAx is just, like the Jest framework wrapped around the Axe accessibility testing library by DQ Labs. It's one of the best kind of testing libraries out there. They've got a great browser plugin that will come up when you hit F12 and inspect things, and you can run it, and it will help check for things in the browser. And it's that same library that's used in their CLI tool. And so oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, this is another great example of, you thinking about the future development around this and putting in sample code, even though it's commented out, to give some guidance to folks who are coming in. So thank you for thinking ahead and doing this. And my mind is just blown by the amount of stuff I've learned during this Hacktoberfest, including thanks, Danielle, for all the accessibility tips that you gave us.
Yeah, of course.
All right, so let's see. We have a couple of more speakers to go here. And I know we are running a little bit. We might run a little bit over, but we did start a little bit late. So, and I think I do want to give everybody a chance to come up and speak. So Danielle, thank you again. All right, so let me take you off. And Chibuise, you are on the screen now. Hello, hello, welcome. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect. How are you doing today?
I'm fine.
Great. Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself, your experience with the project, Hacktoberfest in general.
Okay. My name is Chibueze Azubuike from Nigeria. So the Hacktoberfest. This is my first Hacktoberfest experience. So it was really nice. Learned a lot. I'm a front end developer. Still new using the React library. Still new. So the Oktoberfest project was actually my first real project with React. Yeah,
A lot of firsts.
and
I like it.
I learned a lot. Yeah, learned a lot. Yeah.
Okay, and then Chibuya, tell us a little bit
Okay.
about the problem you had here. I know a little bit about the project. So this project was converting from Vue.js, which is a popular
From Vue
front-end framework,
to
to React.
React.js. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about the
Okay.
problem you solved here.
Okay. So this PRO, where I refactored the React policy table, um, it looked kind of simple, right? But then it was like trying to stop redundancy. So the React policy table was in a parent element, so it was still getting its data from the store using the use selector hook. So what I try to do here is instead of also accessing the store every time, so I use the props in the parent table to access that same property from the parent element. Yeah. So so instead of always going like two, three, four elements, always going to access stuff from the store. So it just one of it just gets it and the rest just takes from it as prop. Yeah. So that's what I just did there.
Yeah, I love how you said it looked simple at first glance, and I think a lot of coding and a lot of projects are like that, where you once you dive in, there's so much to think about, and
Yeah.
so many use cases and edge cases and test cases that you have
Yeah.
to think about. So
So
thank you. And
it was like I was just more things were just coming in while I was doing it and all that and all that. Yeah.
yes, just when you think when you're done, there's always one more thing that you need to do. Yes, I agree. While we are on this project, I do want to give a shout out to Mark, IBMer on this project, who's helped a lot and tremendous amount of
Yeah.
knowledge. And also Ed,
Yeah.
who's another
Ed,
member of
yeah,
True
Ed.
Group. Ed, yeah,
Thumbs up to Ed. Yeah, Ed.
thumbs up
Thumbs
to
up to
Ed.
Ed. He
Ed,
actually helped very well. Yeah. So we
yeah, there
actually
you go, Ed.
had a
Thank you so
huddle. We
much.
actually had a huddle on Slack. Yeah, he walked me through some things and all that because I was having some difficulty when it came to testing and all that. So he actually explained some stuff, and I just walked with what he explained. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan, and Ed also did a session on testing in React in general, which if you're new to testing or and/slash React, please go watch that. Demi, we should provide a link to that somewhere.
Yeah.
I think that was
All
a
right.
great session.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah, and I also worked on another PRO, right?
Yes.
So that was also same thing. Looks simple, but then when you go in, it's something you have to work more on. Yeah. So it was like just to provide the status detail on the accordion. Yeah, right there. Okay. So still same thing. I just got it as got the status detail as a prop. I just got it as a prop in the element there. Yeah. So
Very cool. So
just to
two
make it
PRs.
visible
Thank
on
you.
the app.
No, this is great, and I think like with the slides being available, I think folks will go in and see the what changes you made in the work you've done. So thank you again, Chibuze. Glad to have you
Yeah.
here.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks.
All right. So I think last but not the least, Andrew, let me bring you up on the screen. Welcome, welcome.
Hey.
Good
Hey,
to
everyone.
have you here.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I'm Andrew Harvard, and I'm a UX engineer located in the US in Charlotte, North Carolina. I spend most of my time building front-end prototypes and design systems, so shout out to the folks behind Carbon. I learned a lot just looking through code and documentation as inspiration for my own work and my own projects. I actually first heard about Hacktoberfest last year in November, so I wasn't able to contribute then, but I want to give it a shot this year. So this pull request was my first ever Hacktoberfest PR, so thanks for setting it all up and making it easy for us to contribute.
Very cool. And tell us a little bit about the problem here. I see, I mean, the title says some of the pictures seem to be cutting off the landing page, and I mean, I created this issue, so tell us a little bit more.
I believe Demi reported this to you potentially. Is that correct?
Oh, no.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
You're welcome.
You are trying to take my shine. Thank you.
Gotta give credit where it's due.
I do give the credit in the issue, but yes,
Right.
I didn't see that part. I conveniently did not see that part.
Yeah. So Demi did the work here, and the issue was with the images in the hero. So on a 15-inch screen, the pictures in the hero, they kind of feel cut off, and in some cases, they chop people's faces in half. So it's not like the friendliest look for the hero of the website. And so I investigated it and determined that the behavior was caused by object fit cover in CSS. And so that crops an even amount of pixels at both the top and the bottom of an image as the screen grows wider. And so once again, this issue is really most visible on wider computers, wider monitors. It's not really a problem on a standard size computer or even going down a tablet or mobile. So my pull request introduced just one line of CSS that repositions the cropping effect. So instead of both the top and the bottom getting chopped off, only the bottom gets cropped. And so while this is not perfect, based on the way the photos were composed and put together in the animated GIF, it helps keep most of the faces and most of the photo action in the hero. It keeps it inside of the crop, so that's not being lost. And we targeted testing at screen sizes around 15 inches and up. So I simulated that by zooming out in the browser. It's effectively like having a larger screen. And I think it holds up for most large or high density displays. So it's not just about the actual physical size of a device, but it's also about what's the resolution of that device too, because it will render effectively more content, more pixels on the screen at that time.
Okay. And again, like I've said before, thank you for putting in all the details that you did. And I was amazed by the videos you put in to show how the difference between, the PR and the work that you did. So that made it really clear. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome. This was great. And I just noticed that we missed out on your Hacktoberfest accepted label. So I just added that. If you refresh the screen, Ukar, we got you covered here, Andrew. If you refresh it, you'll see it. Yeah.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Yep. Here for you. Okay. So
I see you got each other's back. Nice.
Definitely.
Cool.
So thank you to all of our speakers. We are now done. And thank you to everyone in the audience for being patient and waiting with us. We are done. We wanted to say thank you to all of our contributors and maintainers, everyone who helped with Hacktoberfest, so our dev advocates, people on our team, everyone who was a part of this in some way. We definitely do appreciate you. It's been awesome. And also thank you to all of our speakers who joined us here today. You might not have seen them in the crowdcast, but we do have a chat going on here. Lots of great feedback and encouragement to each other as well. So thanks to everyone on our maintainers team. And we thank you all for making this a very successful Hacktoberfest for us, for Call for Code, and for Call for Code for Racial Justice. And then now I've added a few slides. Oh, actually, if you refresh this, if you refresh it, it probably will show up. So we did our quiz. So we do have a few results so far. So in terms of the number of programming languages out there, we have some differing opinions. And as Ukar said, it kind of depends on how you define things. One official source is, I think, like 950 programming languages, but there are others. Another source that I saw that said maybe up to 10,000 programming languages. So it seems as if the jury is still out on this one. So it's kind of like a trick question. And then for the second one, surprisingly here, the question here, let's see if we had more results since I put that screenshot up. So no, we have the same amount. So everyone is favored React as the most, the project with the most commits. It is actually Swift, the one you see here with 0 votes. This was based on some work done by, I think, 2 Sigma Ventures. They took a look at a lot of GitHub projects, and they were able to figure out exactly which ones had the most commits. And Swift actually has the most commits. And it's probably maybe top 10 for other metrics as well. But just interesting to note if you're looking for another open source project to get involved in as well. And just a few more things as we wrap up here. We are almost done, so we won't keep you much longer. Just as far as next steps here, if you are looking to get involved, so we still do have about 100 open issues on our Hacktoberfest for Call for Code for Racial Justice, and we do have 14 projects for you to contribute to. We have some of them up here for you to take a look at. You can learn more about them by going to our GitHub as usual, joining us on Slack, which we'll have in the next slides as well. We'll talk a little bit more about how you can join us going forward. And we'll also put that into the Crowdcast. So for you to take to join us as part of our community. As you see, we have a lot of fun here, and there are lots of things to learn and to do. So if you're not a part of our community, please do join as well. So next up, let's see the slides if we can. Yeah, so there are more resources for you to join us. Callforcode.org/Slack is a good place to start, as well as our handbook. If you were here for the kickoff, you saw me pounding that handbook in as a resource. So it's made for Hacktoberfest, but a lot of the things there are still relevant just for any kind of contribution year round if you want to take a part of that, and has links to the other things such as the open source course, which you can take as well. So we do hope that you'll get involved with our projects and our teams, connect with us on GitHub, stay connected to the teams, and join events where we'll be having events such as this going forward. You know, we do like to have fun, meet other people in our community and learn from each other. So we definitely have some more ideas of other events we might want to do. Maybe another thing on testing, maybe something on accessibility going forward. If you do have ideas for us of things you want to do, let us know as well. So thank you all for joining. I would like to see whether or not we can bring any of our speakers up just to say hi and maybe take a screenshot.
Let's do that. Let's do that. Daniel,
everyone, let us know in the chat which of the demos you liked or what you learned the most from, just so that we can also learn as well. So, all right, are we all here?
We are missing some of our speakers left. There's a limit on how many people can be on the stage. And just on that note as well, Demi, I know there's a lot of other PRs and commits that people presented or put in. So this is a sample of all the work that went in, but thank you to everybody.
Yeah, so let's just say bye to everyone. Thank you all so much for joining. It's really great to see you and to be connected around the world. So thank you all, and happy Hacktoberfest. Enjoy your weekend.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye, guys.